It's sound on, sound on. Because once again, ladies and gentlemen, as you see the background here on Sportswire Radio, we are speaking about our favorite college, our favorite athletics department, that is the Five Towns College Sound. And we are speaking with another coach here, another coach this time from the women's soccer team. Last week, we heard the story from the men's soccer team, but now we get a chance to hear the women's side of it. And our coach did a phenomenal job this year in his first year leading the women's soccer team. They win their first game, and this year in 2023, they also played a number of really, really competitive matchups and had a who's who of players, a few of them that have even been on Sportswire Radio over the years. And oh, by the way, he was the 2023 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Coach of the Year for his work. And he even saw some things with the men's team because he was down there helping him out going into the Nationals. And our guest here needs no further introduction. It's his second time back here on Sportswire Radio, but he has to get that introduction that everybody else gets, and especially his counterpart on the men's side of it, Mr. Jason Facina, because Coach Facina spoke a lot about him, and our guest called him, oh, by the way, the godfather of Five Towns College soccer. But ladies and gentlemen, as I said to it, let's get right to it. So with that, wait for it. Further ado, here on the Sports Report. Number one. Global Sports Show. The head coach from our Five Town Sound women's soccer team. His name is Joe Coach, how you doing?
I am well. You keep stepping up your game on those intros. I don't know where we're going to go from there if I come back.
Well, you should note that I felt a little rusty because I actually did two of those within the span of about 2.5 hours yesterday. We had our sixth member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame inducted, Ernest Dove, who's done some work in the New York Mets organization covering. And then we had the complete opposite of that, Chase Wakefield, who calls himself, well, he used to call himself the Bitcoin billionaire. And after those, I felt like, I don't know if I can do another one of those, but I'm like, we got to do it. It's Five Town Sound. Matt Gershio is going to call up and go, Tom Bryce from Staten Island. He's going to probably say something like that. So I'm like, I'm going to have to do my best here to pull out the old college try because we are speaking college athletics here. So yes, I didn't think I could do it, but that's kind of been the theme since you last came on. I think you came on about 10 months ago, and everybody that's been coming on the show since goes, wow, those intros, Tom, those intros. And I'm doing this for 5 years. When Coach Facina first came on, it was like we did it on a almost a Skype-like call, and it was a muffled cell phone connection. And now we've got banners, we've got tickers, logos, we've got fancy lights, it's professional and all this different stuff. So yeah, the next time you come on, and probably right before the season or after the season, it'll be an even better intro, I think. So, but obviously, enough about the intros. It's not about me, it's about you, Coach Littwin. And once again, it is a tremendous honor to have you, and I'm always curious to hear the women's side of things because Coach Facina, as we know, can certainly talk a storm. He certainly spoke a lot about the men's side, and we touched a little bit upon the women's side. But now that the season's been over, and it's been several weeks, I have to ask, especially for our fans here at the Five Town Sound women's soccer team and those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. Coach Littwin, how do you feel about the season now it's ended and you've had some time to reflect on it?
Yeah, it's always really important to kind of try to step away after the season because, things are a little raw if it didn't go well or you think they went better than they did and things like that. And when you can kind of step back and really look at it and then speak to other people who have a more neutral opinion about it, you really get some good feedback and things like that.
Sure.
we went into camp with the most amount of girls on our roster to start a season in the history of the program. So obviously that was a positive. Unfortunately, it didn't stay like that for very long. A couple of people had some personal commitments and, commitments to school and things like that. And just decided to not end up playing. And that's okay because, they are there to get their education first. I mean, the soccer is great and everything, but as an educator, I always want them to do what's best for their academics. So we all ended up picking up some really wonderful players as well. Raina Duzant, who's on the basketball team. She said she never played organized soccer, but you'd never know it by watching her play. I think she snowed us to make herself better than she was, but we were pleasantly surprised by her. And Chantal Perry, also from the basketball team, ended up joining us. So, we picked up some really good players on campus. The training camp was a wonderful experience. I had never
I know
done
I
that
missed
before.
that, unfortunately, because we were
Well,
speaking about
listen, you
the
got
months
sick,
there.
but the
Yeah.
invite's always going to be there from Coach
Oh,
Facina.
definitely, this summer. I would definitely want to be there. Again, unfortunately, this summer I
I
I
think
don't
it's
think
fun
I've
for the
ever been that
kids
sick in my
too.
life.
Yeah, I get it. So it was great to really bond and put the team together like that. One of the things I'm most proud of is that all the girls actually liked each other. When you're putting together a team, you never know how personalities are going to mesh.
Sure.
You're looking for positions, you're looking for this, you're looking for that. But like I said, the girls actually like each other. They hang out. They still are hanging out even after the season's over. They're going to the gym with my assistant coach, Gabby. So that's just, a really good feeling. As far as moving into the season, once we got everything established and things like that, we had some really competitive games, some games where we have a lot to work on, but it's a good measuring stick when you play those D3 teams and you really see where you are and where
Sure.
you.
Maritime comes to mind for
Mhm.
sure. You
Well,
played
the
them, and
Maritime game was an excellent game for us. We had just come off of a pretty bad loss, but we only had 10 girls that game, so it's hard to manage how bad the game really was. Unfortunately, one of our players got sick literally an hour before kickoff
oh
at
my
that
god,
point.
oh my god.
Yeah, and we were like, she's like, I'll gut through it, and I'm like, no, no, no.
That's
You
how
know,
I felt like between the months of August and October. Every time I came on to Sportswire and I'm on a radio station Wednesday nights, and it was like that's how I felt for 2 months. So I could certainly sympathize with that,
Yeah,
Coach.
I don't know. Luckily, it didn't go through the team or anything like that. It was just more specific to the one player that day, and it was the worst timing ever. But
Sure.
it's one of those things that it happens. As long as the player recovered and ends up feeling better, that's all we care about at the end of the day.
No question about it. And obviously, let's talk about the Maritime game for a second because that was a game. You're playing a team. It's a D3 school, Skyline Conference, and to go and battle them and give them a game after the adversity. I know we spoke with Coach Facina, and it was a different side of the story, but different things. Some of those similarities we'll get to in a few minutes. But what was that like in terms of using that as maybe a factor to kind of overall get the season in at least where this team was competitive, had some moments, and certainly showed that, next season there's a lot to be proud of here, I think, with the program here that you're leading.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a building block. Like I said, we came off of a D3 loss that was pretty embarrassing, by my standards, obviously.
I know
Um,
you had a lot of expectations. You came on the show months ago. You were like ready to rock and roll
Yeah,
and
people
ready
kept
to win
telling me,
it.
temper them. And I'm like, that's just not how I operate. I'm balls to the wall, all guns blazing, all those, tired cliches, but that's just how I am. But what happened was we were actually tied with them 1-1 at halftime. And I said, ladies, we're in this game, obviously, with a D3 team. I mean, anything can happen at this point. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was we got a goal kick from Jordan. It was a very windy day, which was really weird because it was early in September, so I didn't expect it to be that windy.
Yeah, the weather was weird in September. It was like
Yeah, and the
it was
ball kind of
warmer later in the month of October, but September was like there was some weird moments there. We spoke about that with Coach Facina. It was the same
yeah.
story there with the weather down
It
there.
was really cold too, and I mean they're right on the water, so it's obviously going to be colder. But what happened was it became very windy, and Jordan went to clear the ball, and it didn't go as deep as we had covered. Obviously, it kind of blew back. They jumped on it, and ended up scoring 2-1. And then the third goal they scored with 16 seconds left as we were pressing for the tie, and we had some shots on goal late. I think we scared them. But that ended up being a building block to our first win, which was the very next game against Bucks.
Yep.
So,
But we would have certainly
so,
spoken to
so
you about.
once they started to believe in themselves, obviously it made a huge difference.
We lost you there, Coach. There we go. We lost you there for a second, Coach.
Oh no, you froze, but
Okay. Well, I mean, but you were saying there. Unfortunately, that's the beauty of technology. But going at the end of the Maritime game, using that as a springboard for the Bucks moment where we get the first win. What did you say to the players afterwards? Don't tell me the exact semantics, but what was the feeling like in that locker room?
Well, I mean, obviously there was disappointment. We felt like we let it get away, even though the score doesn't indicate how close it really was. And that's the funny thing about scores. They don't always tell the true tale of what happened. A team will put up some late points and things like that, and then it looks like it was a blowout as compared to it really being tight. But I told the girls how proud I was of them and how they battled through the whole game. And I really believed that they could do something special. And their hard work was really starting to play, to come into fruition. The other thing is, as you're learning to play with each other, because you're bringing all these different players in, sometimes it takes, some time to learn. Even with 2 weeks of training camp and all of that kind of stuff, you still have to learn how each other plays and, the preferences, like this person wants the ball deep, they want it on their left foot, things like that. So, it was building blocks.
Did you feel, I know obviously we spoke about a number of different things that you've done before, obviously, coaching in high school and then having the decision to make the jump here. And did you feel like over time that you maybe adjusted your coaching style a bit, or did you feel in any ways you changed who you were as a coach?
That
Maybe
that
going
would
into
actually
the
be a
future?
great question to ask Chelsea or Wildren because they both played for me in high school.
Well, we're gonna get to Chelsea. I can promise you we're gonna get to Chelsea.
I did definitely change some things. I was definitely a little bit, for lack of a better term, harder on these girls because I wanted to build a culture of winning. I had never given a real summer program like I had, coming for them to come into training camp before. So that was something that I adjusted to. We wanted to play a certain formation, but we just didn't have the pieces to do that. So we had to adjust. So yeah, there were definitely some adjustments that I made. There were a couple of mistakes I made, obviously, is it on this level that you might get away with in high school that you definitely won't get away with at the college level, like changing the formation the day before a game. That was pretty dumb on my part, and I'll be the first to admit that. And then what happened was the girls, even looked at me and they were like, look, we love you, coach. We believe in you. Can we go back to doing what we're a little bit more comfortable with? And I said, yeah. And we played much better in the second half of that particular game. So listen, it's a learning process
Yeah,
on
listen, you make
all sides.
in-game adjustments all the time. As we're speaking with the head coach of the Five Town Sound women's soccer team, Jeff Littwin. Of course, Coach Littwin was the 2023 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Coach of the Year on the women's side. He also did a phenomenal job in helping out our buddy who came on last week, Mr. Jason Facinas. The guys went down to nationals. We'll definitely talk about that. And of course, if you want to follow the women's soccer team, please follow them on Instagram at FTC Women's Soccer. Also, the men's soccer team as well at FTC Men's Soccer, and the entire athletics department at Five Towns _Sound. And we will have more Five Town Sound athletics coverage coming up here in the next week. We're actually supposed to have Coach Drizel come on tomorrow, but unfortunately, I have a scheduling conflict, so I'm going to have to reschedule that. But we plan to have him on along with Coach Jakes, obviously your counterpart on the women's side. And I want to say hello to Mr. Jay Vidal, and he also wanted to ask you, what's it like being able to help many young talent and old have a place where they can feel they can do the best at what they're able to do? That's an interesting question. I mean, what do you say to something like that before we come back more into the season?
No, that's a great question. As a coach and an educator, and Coach Facina and I talk about this all the time. We want a place for all of our athletes where they can feel comfortable, like a second family, a second home, where they can come to us with issues. To quote Ted Lasso, we're trying to make them the best on and off the field that they can be. I think it's actually Pep Guardiola who said it first, but and they stole it in Ted Lasso. But that's literally what we're trying to do. I mean, the girls that I'm trying to give opportunities to, a lot of them weren't recruited by any other schools. And I'm looking at them and trying to provide an opportunity for them to get a college education while doing something they love. And, they and some of them, especially, 3 or 4 of my players could definitely play at other schools and on another level. But, I think part of that is that safe space that I've created for them, and Coach Gabby has created for them, make them want to come and play for us, regardless of the level of competition and things like that. So I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Obviously this was my first recruiting class. I'm going into my second one right now. In 3 years, when these girls walk across the stage, that'll be my proudest moment, no matter what our record
Listen,
was.
and 100%. At the end of the day, and let me just say it. I say this all the time when we have Coach Vecina on and anybody else that comes from the school. The wins and losses are great. Obviously, we want to go to nationals. We want to win the Hudson Valley. We want to beat these D3 schools. We want to boast about it. But at the end of the day, really, what's most important here is not wins and losses. It's about how many people we can graduate at Five Towns and then have them go and be productive members of society. Obviously, be far more productive members of society than yours truly, so they can obviously go out there and do great things. I'm only kidding, but the point is that at the end of the day, we're here. We only have them for a short amount of time. We have to get them ready for the world. We have to get them ready to be productive members of society. And I think that that's what was most important. I think that that's what we're very happy to have you here, because we know what you've done, obviously, as an educator, obviously your background at Post, LIU Post, and in the high school system here. So I think having those things here is why we're excited about the program here. So obviously, some of these things that we spoke about in a sense. So talk to me then about, as we spoke about, the first win that you get as a college student. Everybody remembers their first win.
Yeah,
Always first
absolutely.
impressions in life. We speak about this all the time. And, that first win, did you get a Gatorade bag? Did they,
No,
hoist you up in the field? I mean,
the
let's
girls didn't
talk
do
about
that. To
why
be
not?
honest, I was a little surprised that
If it was Facina, I'm sure you would have been hearing it all the way down the softball fields on Long Island. You
well,
would have heard it in
he
all
was
those
getting the boys ready because
Umbertos.
they were playing after us. So, but he did make it out in time to shake my hand at the end of the game and things like that. His support has been invaluable to me.
Sure.
It's
Facina, what he's done for the program, he is, like you said, he's the godfather. Not only of Five Town soccer, but I would dare say Five Towns athletics at this point.
Yeah, and I go back and forth calling him the architect, the godfather. It's the Italian thing, so we go godfather more. But it's just, what he's really built here is given, and I said this last time I was on, has given me a great model for what we want our program to look like, from every aspect of it, from training camp through academics, through athletics.
How about the staff he's put together? I mean, you got Gabby.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of pressure because you've seen what he has with Wells and
yeah, but
Morelli and
Gabby's a great story. We'll get to her a little bit later.
Oh, yeah,
But she's a great story because you don't realize how small the world is until something like this happens. So we can talk about that in a minute. But getting back to that first win, so we kept feeding Abby Kemp the ball. We kept wanting her to score, a goal in college, before her career was over and things like that. I think she may have actually scored one last year, but she was really playing forward, like her boyfriend.
Yeah, listen, last year, as we spoke about, we had Facina on the show. Players were playing in places they had no idea what they were doing. And
she's really fast, and her boyfriend is Juan, Lopez, who plays.
Oh yeah, I know
the men's team. So he was really working with her to be a striker like he is. So I said, hey, let's see what she can do up there. So we kept feeding her the ball, and she kept making great shots. But the goalie was stopping them, but she was leaving the rebounds. And then Daphne Espada ends up scoring a hat trick and becoming the player of the week based off of all of Abby's hard work. We were like, come on, one's got to go in for Abby, you
Well,
know?
well, the running joke we've had, not to put too much wrestling in here. We had our guest yesterday, Chase Wakefield, and we had said, well, because his quote unquote best friend had won 2 championships back to back days, I had
Right.
kind of said facetiously, well, does that make you 1/2, 1/3, or 1/4 of that? So maybe in this case for Abby, maybe she was 1/2, 1/3, or 1/4 of the player of the week in Daphne Espada. Maybe you could make that case for those out there
Yeah,
in the Hudson Valley
absolutely.
Intercollegiate
I
Athletic
mean, she
Conference.
had a bunch of points based on assists because of it, but no, but that game, we ended up getting up pretty big on Bucks. I'm not someone who runs up the score. We probably could have put a few more on.
No, I agree with that. You never want to rub it into people's face. 'Cause I'm always a believer it'll come back to you. I
A
always
hundred,
believe that,
100%.
I'm never a believer in that in life.
And once again, the game that we had lost 2 games prior was kind of out of hand like that, and I would never do that to somebody else. So we started moving people into different positions to give them a chance. We didn't have a boatload of subs, so it wasn't like we could take somebody like Chelsea off or somebody like that. So we just threw kind of Chelsea in the back. So she wouldn't be able to score, and sometimes those games are what we call stat padders, where everybody wants to score, like playing the Jets. Unfortunately, people just want.
Hey, they did win. They did win on Sunday, by the way.
They did, but I really thought they were going to blow that game. That was the jettiest jet win ever.
Yeah, I thought they were going to lose it in a jet way, but they did win. So, although some people are
100%.
upset about that because of draft position, because they lose a significant amount of
they
picks
can't even
coming from
lose,
the
right?
draft.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, that win was really special. But once again, it's not about my wins. It's not about me. Even when I'm out there recruiting, I tell the girls all the time, if the coach doesn't put you first as a person, you as a student before a soccer player, you probably shouldn't play for that coach, because it's about them and it's not about you. And that's what it should be.
Again, at this level, playing at this level, you have to be realistic. And you also, especially going to 5 towns, this, you got to really. This is a school that you're here expected to do the not to say anywhere else you're not, but like realistically, you have to be a very productive member of the faculty and your overall as a student to go in those different places. So it's a two-way street, absolutely. And that again as an educator.
I also think that was a big adjustment for some of the girls, because I was all over them about their grades throughout the whole season. We were getting reports on how they were doing, and I was hands-on. We were on a road trip, and Facina does the same thing. We call the kid up to the bus. We have a private conversation. Let me see your grades. How you doing? Do you need any help? Constantly checking in, and that unfortunately that doesn't go on all the time in high school. So for my freshmen, it was a big deal. They were like, wow. They're not kidding. I didn't do as well as I should have in high school, and I still got to play. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that on this level. So, you have to actually be eligible to play.
No question about that here for sure. And, so obviously, let's talk about a few of the players here, because obviously there's a number of things I want to get into, but obviously, kind of to segue right into the interview, because right before we went on the air, I posted about Anna Hauser, your first recruit. Now, Anna Hauser becomes second team in the Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. And this is somebody we obviously can expect a number of things from here going forward. And talk to me about Anna Hauser, her role on the team, and basically why you were made to look good. This was your first recruit.
She is everything I could have hoped for and more. I mean, I could literally do a whole show on Anna Hauser and what she means to the program, as she tries to take up the mantle for Jordan Tobin as she graduates. To have that next leader in the building already is unbelievable. She has done everything that was asked of her. I think a lot of schools missed out not recruiting her, and I don't know why they didn't. Because she's just a special person, a special player. I'll talk about some of the things in more detail, but the first time Coach Facina's staff saw her practice, so obviously we didn't have huge numbers, so we would scrimmage versus the freshman boys a lot of days, and they watched her and they were like, she could play for us. I'm like, I know. The problem with a position that Anna plays is there's no stats. So she is a complete eye test player. You have to see her play to understand how important she is to the team and how valuable she is on the field. We even created a play for her off of a corner kick. She goes, nobody ever did this for me. I was like, I want you to be involved. And, she took 2 shots on the year. She did miss them both, but it was a great play because what it did was it opened up a lot of our stuff off of corners because now they had to come out and defend her who was coming in. The thing is that she unfortunately got hurt in the first game of the season. And I had to literally almost sit on her on Doc's table because she wanted to go back in. And sometimes you have to protect the players from themselves because, they will, the adrenaline and all of that, they will be out there, just doing everything. To make a long story short, we ended up during the Pratt game, naming Anna our next captain. We couldn't even wait till the end of the season. She just had that much of an impact and that much respect from everybody on the team, on the coaching staff, in the school. She just does everything right. One of my favorite moments of the whole season was we were down in a game and Jordan was facing so many shots. And Anna
Jordan had some games this year where she faced onslaughts.
She did not get the due she deserved because, once again, people didn't see a lot of what we were doing. All you saw was a lot of saves, but you didn't see the saves. These were, Vicario on Tottenham kind of saves. It was just unbelievable.
A buddy of mine is a Tottenham fan, so I heard that, like, okay, I know that reference.
So Jordan is obviously very tall, and Anna is
I've had Jordan
vertically challenged.
So I've seen that firsthand.
Yes, and Jordan just walked over, and I think Anna said something to her like, "I'm sorry, we're not doing our job in front of you," and she just kind of patted her on the head, and it was almost like a passing of the torch kind of moment where you could see that utmost respect that Jordan actually had for Anna, and that Abby kind of adopted her as her 5th sister. So it was just an absolute respect factor for Anna. The other thing I did was I instituted a notebook policy. So what is that exactly?
I was going to ask you. I was like, do people still use a notebook? I was going to ask.
Yeah, I went out and I bought all the girls' notebooks. I tried to find their favorite colors. That was mostly successful. A couple of them were not so happy. I didn't get enough pink, apparently. But what happened was after each practice and after each game, I had the players write something that they thought they did really well at and something they wanted to work on. And on the other side of the page, they had to write something about another player. Now, that could have been very, very dangerous because if you don't present information in a certain way, people become, they think it's criticism as opposed to accountability. And I want everybody to hold each other accountable. And Anna's notebook, if I could show it to you, every game, comprehensive notes. She took it to the whole next level, to the point where I said, okay, how about you run the next practice? I want you to plan out based on what your notes say, what we need to work on. And her and Trinity ran a practice and it was unbelievable. And all the girls responded. And, I want them to have that ownership of the team. Obviously, at the end of the day, I have to make the final decisions on everything and I have to live with those decisions. But, I think empowering the players to have a voice and to because they're the ones living it.
Well, we speak about it all the time here on Sportswire in that at this level, and I think with the type of individuals that you're coaching, whether it's men's or women's, you have to be in a way kind of a player's coach. You have to be able to relate to your players. You have to be able to feel like that you're giving them a voice. You have to feel like that you're giving them those opportunities. All too often I've had on in my almost 5 years on Sportswire, I probably had on 25, 30 different coaches around, whether it's in the Hudson Valley or in Division 3, 2, and in Division 1. And it's always been consensusly the same thing. To be successful in 2023 as a coach, you have to be able to be a player's coach. You can't be this, I don't want to say a prior coach that coached here in this department
Mhm.
that coached for
Well, we can use
a
Bobby
women's
Knight.
team.
We can use Bobby Knight.
But the
He's the
point is that
prototypical.
right, the Bobby Knights don't work anymore. But the
Nope.
point is that you can't be this disciplinarian where you're gonna basically be a taskmaster, almost kind of like if you were a basketball fan back in the '90s, where Pat Riley was coaching the
Yep.
New York Knicks and the Miami Heat, and Pat
Mhm.
Riley was basically this disciplinarian. He was basically the taskmaster. Or if you're a hockey fan, Mike Keenan, who had coached
Yep.
the New York Rangers to the Stanley Cup, or Bill Parcells, when he was coaching in his heyday with the Patriots and the
Mhm.
Jets and the Cowboys, things like that. So I think in a way you have to feel like that the players can, voice their roles. Also, they're the ones playing out there on the field. They know in terms of what goes on. So I think in a way, doing that and giving players an ability to feel like that they can contribute and maybe see things that you don't or anybody else on the staff does, I think goes a long way. I think in improving what we see in the product next year, but also I think for players that want to come here to Five Towns, because obviously we're trying to build a foundation here, right?
Right.
Obviously, you took the job not even a year ago. It's just about a year, actually.
Well,
It was just over a
actually, I
year
think
ago.
December 12th was officially a year.
Right. So it was just over a year ago. You came on to this show 10 months ago. So basically, you're starting completely from scratch. Obviously, Coach Facina did the best he could. He was having,
Mhm.
obviously, a lot of other roles. He's obviously the assistant AD in purchasing. He's also got the men's program. He's got a baby. He's got his own school responsibilities out in Queens. But at the end of the day, you're starting over from scratch. So you have to be able to build a program here in order for us to be able to compete on the levels that we've wanted here at Five Towns. Gershio came on here, years ago and talked about he wanted Five Towns to be a powerhouse athletically. Durzel's been on here a couple times. Corey's been on here. That Facina, I'm sure we'll get into him later on. But the fact of the matter is that you have to be able to, in order for what you want to do and those lofty expectations, you're going to have to build a place that players say, hey, I want to come to Five Towns, because when you're going to go recruit next year and recruit for classes upcoming, you have to show why people want to come here.
Yeah, one of the big things that I'm very happy with is the response that I get from recruits. They definitely want to come here. It always comes down to the numbers, and I don't know if you know what's going on right now with the FAFSA thing. Usually, it comes out in October, so
Yep.
we can start putting packages together. It still isn't out yet, and it won't be out until possibly December 31st. And that really puts a crimp into recruiting because kids want to see their packages and things, and it's
And they
no
don't
fault,
know in terms of what they would
right?
qualify for financial aid in
Yeah,
Five
and
Towns.
it's
It's
no
a
fault of
college
the
that it's
schools
not free to
or
go to Five Towns.
right, and it's no fault of the schools or anybody else. Well, it's the government, but it's no fault of the school. And it's just very difficult. But the girls, I have a very lengthy list of recruits that I'm working on right now, and I've had very positive responses like, coach, if the numbers work, I'm coming to play for you. The other thing is, though, creating that player coach model, but there still has to be a level of accountability,
Sure.
when you have to find that balance where you're not, you can't say you're mad at somebody anymore because that doesn't really hold the weight. It's the disappointment. And a lot of the players, if they
I know
like you,
it's a different world, even for
yeah,
me. Listen, I mean,
and
I'm
they
I'm
don't
out of
want to
college over a
disappoint.
decade. It's a different world. I don't know how you'd be able to do it in a way, because you have to navigate this role. I mean, it's a different world.
Yeah, I mean, the other day I had a recruit come for a tour, and Anna came running up. She's like, "Listen, I'm in Staten Island for the day, visiting family, but I'll be there." And like that, just like I said, I could do a whole 2 hours on Anna. Her family's incredible. They support us amazingly. They're at every game. They drove up to Word of Life. Like it's just an amazing, amazing. We have family as part of our chant and our part of on our gear. I mean, and that just
Yeah, I mean,
infused
I think
that.
at Five Towns, and I've always said this here, we're speaking with the head coach of the Five Towns Sound women's soccer team, Jeff Littwin. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the number one global radio station. I've always said this about Five Towns. It's always been a very welcoming atmosphere. It's always a very atmosphere that you feel like that you're here in Five Towns and people go out of their way to make you feel special here. I mean, obviously, Gershia with the famous stories of him running out and getting waters for the guys, and
Yep.
obviously, Coach Facina in the role that he's played in mentoring the women's players when he had them, and obviously the men's
Mhm.
players. Your background as an educator, your background in terms of high school athletics, I think that's really why people want to come to Five Towns. They know that we've had an environment here the past 5 years, really since the athletics department has basically been kind of remodeled or reorganized, whatever you want to call it at this point. And I think that that's again why people see here that everybody cares for each other. It's not like you're coming here and we're taking your tuition money
Mhm.
and we want you to play. And when you're here and if you don't graduate or you graduate, you're forgotten. At
Yeah.
Five Towns, there's lifelong relationships that are built here, and I think also the tools that we have here on campus. Obviously, we spoke about this so many times on Sportswire over almost the 5 years I've been on the air. Obviously, the broadcasting
Right.
department that we have here. We look at also the business program that we have here. We look at obviously that on-site opportunities that you get here in terms of the direct contact with your professors. It's a very welcoming. The classroom size ratio is very small compared to
Mhm.
a lot of other colleges. So there's so many I think things that we have here at Five Towns that allows us to be a place that I think students know that they can come here and become, as I said a little while ago, very productive members of society, and people like yourself who understand that and are educators, Jason as well, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean, and I really saw it at the Berkeley men's game. All of Facina's like former players were there and like supporting them in that. Amanda Seltzer was at a bunch of our games.
I know
It
Amanda.
just yeah, I mean, it really, and they made me feel so welcome. We could talk about what happened at nationals, how the men's team made
We're
me
going to
feel,
definitely talk about that because that's on my mind.
made me
Sure.
feel like I was absolutely one of their actual coaches on the staff, and they had the utmost respect and everything. And being there to share that game against Berkeley in the HVAC final was just one of the craziest games I've ever been a part of, and it was just amazing to be on the sidelines. And just, like I said, just an amazing experience in Pittsburgh. When I traveled with them, and it really kind of set the tone for what we want on the women's side. We want to be there with them, not just supporting them, but playing alongside them.
No,
In
absolutely.
that
And I
top.
think that experience is certainly going to help for sure going forward. But obviously, I don't want to spend all day on players, but I
Yeah.
want to go back to Abby Kemp because I
Mhm.
had Abby Kemp on here during the COVID run. Again, I don't
Yeah.
want to rehash COVID and such. That was obviously a horrific time and search, especially if you're in college athletics and what we lost that whole year. That's almost
Mhm.
like a quarter of someone's, basically playing career to lose a quarter of that. But Abby obviously goes on and graduates here in a
Mhm.
few months. And talk to me about having Abby for this year. You spoke a little bit about her leadership and maybe kind of mentoring Anna to become that captain, but talk about Abby Kemp and the role that she played this year and kind of helping you lay these foundations into next season where we know you're going to do even bigger and better things.
Yeah, so Abby stepped up big time this year, and we ended up naming her the second captain alongside of Jordan before we, moved to Anna moving forward. But Abby, played any position we asked her to. She, was out there motivating the girls. Um, we talked on the side all the time, and she was actually sad that she only got to play with me for 1 year because she felt like she had so much growth this year as a player and as a person. Because I believed in her, and not that the other coaches didn't, but I really pushed her to find herself as a player and as a person. And there was a little bit of a situation early on in the season, and she just came through it with flying colors and stepped up. And I said, I need you to be the other captain alongside of Jordan. Sorry, I'm just drawing a blank right now.
But I think the point
Decided
is
not to come back to school.
right.
Our previous captain. I'm just drawing a total
But
blank.
the point is, I think on
Mhm.
Abby, while you kind of figure that out, and I know
Yeah,
obviously things do happen here. We're live on Sportswire.
Zoe.
But to me,
Sorry, Zoe.
Zoe
Sorry.
Colodny, yes. So Zoe, who we know obviously had some injuries and such, but I mean, coming back into Abby, I think it's important what you just said there because she played for a number of different coaches in her
Mhm.
time here. She played with one coach. I'm not even going to bring his name up in basketball. She
I've
had
heard stories. It's okay.
Yeah, you want to speak about, it was
No, it's
obviously,
okay. It's okay.
yeah, I
We
don't
don't
want
want
to
to
go into
disparage
that.
anybody here on Sportswire Radio.
Yeah, but the point is that, I think having Abby say those things about you goes a long way. Do you think that Abby will take a role when she's an alumni to maybe help out in different ways to recruit? And obviously, Abby's story was interesting that she came out of state and from Arizona. Her family
Mhm.
obviously were athletes. Her sister, we know as well, Nicole Kemp. But I mean, talk about that maybe. Do you see her maybe having still a role in some way as an alumni post when she
Obviously, I
graduates?
would love for her to do that. We had talked about maybe her even going to grad school and using her COVID year to play one more year, if that's a possibility. But I do know her heart is still in Arizona. So whatever she can do, obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if she did want to take a role. She would obviously be more than welcome to do such a thing. Like I said, same thing with Amanda. I did have a couple of girls that I was speaking to from Arizona, so I would ask her, where is this school in relation to you? Do they have a good soccer program out there? Because a lot of this is I'm not traveling. I'm watching a lot of video. I'm
Sure.
doing a lot of Zoom calls. We just don't have that kind of budget like a D1 school where they can pretty much go on
Oh,
recruiting
well,
trips
I
and
mean,
things like that.
even if you're let's say an NEC D1 school, your budget's going to be bigger than
Yeah.
what we have at Five Towns. But I think the fact that we have somebody like Abby, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have to go into that. Does she come back one more year? But speaking of players that you recruited out of state, you had a player in Trinity Richardson from Texas. Now, I've had on different players and different coaches, but I think the first one I think that I've spoken to in terms of somebody here locally recruiting someone from Texas has to be you at Trinity Richardson. And talk about that story. Really fascinating story. We were speaking about this off the air, and for the audience here
Mhm.
listening and watching on Sports by Radio, kind of talk about Trinity Richardson and how you were able to land her all the way from Texas there, the Longhorn State.
Yeah, Trinity is an amazing young lady. She's got a voice touched by God. She can just absolutely sing. What happened was I was recruiting through an app, and I just look up people that are looking for majors that are comprehend with Five Towns, and so I'm looking at business, I'm looking at communications, music majors, that kind of stuff. And her coach reached back out to me and said, "This girl's a singer." And I said, "Oh, can you put me in touch with the family?" And I spoke to her uncle, who was her guardian, and he played for the Netherlands in back in the day,
Oh, wow.
and he grilled me. He had so many questions like, "Do you play a high line? What's your formation?" And when I actually told him that my system was the system he played in the Netherlands of total football, I think he was sold.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
they said, "We're going to come up for a visit." They came up for a visit. Trinity had never been to New York. They went to a Broadway show. The
Wow.
allure of New York, can
Yeah.
be pretty awesome. Apparently, when Trinity went in for her audition, the school gave me a better offer for her just based on her singing. So that was, an awesome thing. She fits in really well. She had a very decorated high school career in Texas. She was a big get for us. The biggest issue was that she got hurt right as we were warming up for the Word of Life game. And instead of coming out of that game victorious, I think it was a big reason why we only held on for the tie. Because she is one of the fastest players I've ever seen. To the point where, we have to find somebody that can really go on runs with her because she's so far ahead of everybody that, we got to find like her speed match to really access all of her talents. She's got one of the hardest shots I've ever seen, and she can finish with either foot.
Oh,
So
wow.
those are very rare qualities in a player.
And I'm absolutely excited about that, and we look forward to seeing her sing and also see her do some great things on the field out there. And also, I have to bring up Melissa Dupont for us. Talk about Melissa Dupont for us and what
So
she
I
did.
worked on Melissa for a while. She's actually an alum of Amityville, same as
Okay.
Jordan Tobin.
And I
Uh,
know a lot of the Amityville guys in basketball, Olivier Laurent, Billy Heenan. So Amityville, when you say that, that's definitely a top of the crop athletics program over there for
Right, and
sure.
and she spoke that she wanted to play all three sports. We were talking about getting lacrosse at the time, and she
Yes, I
literally
remember that. I
wants to
remember
be
that.
the next Jordan Tobin. So so that was a nice little connection. She joined us literally right before school started, though, because she wasn't sure if she was going to enter the
Yeah, I don't think that
military.
was a name that came up when
No,
we
not at
were
all. So
looked
that
for
was
speaking. Yeah.
a nice little pickup right before the school year started. So she didn't get to go through the whole training with us and things like that. So that hurt her development a little bit in the beginning of the season. But she's actually playing basketball now with Coach Jocks as
Yep.
well. So she's one of those local girls, that you tell her what to do and she goes out and she works hard and she tries.
Oh, that's what we're certainly, excited about here. And obviously, let's segue into Jordan Tobin then, because
Mhm.
obviously Jordan Tobin, I've interviewed Jordan Tobin. It was amazing when I actually got the chance to interview Jordan Tobin because she was she was just off a shift at work and she just went to school the whole
Yeah.
day. And, what she does, in terms of what everything she's put on the field for us in soccer for these years and now on the basketball court. I mean, we're going to look back, and I said this in Jason's spot. I've said this when Corey came on here, and I said this even when the prior women's basketball coach came on to Sports. While we're not going to mention names, but the fact of the matter is that I think when we look back all time in this rebirth of the Five Towns athletics program, Jordan Tobin is going to probably be the greatest athlete that we've ever had here. Not only she has been an all-conference player, she's been a national player, she's led the country in a number of different
Mhm.
categories, and what she's done has been really special. Again, the only comparison I can think of in my career who I've interviewed at this level would be Katie Healy in John Jay College, who was a champion soccer
Mhm.
player and almost won the CUNY Athletics twice in basketball. And she wound up there basically as a player having near both the records in most categories there in soccer and basketball. And I think Jordan's going to wind up having most of these categories here on her own. And talk to me about Jordan Tobin. What was it like basically coaching her? And you got some big shoes to fill next
Yeah,
year by trying to
absolutely.
fill her shoes. You got to talk about that for
So
us.
if I could talk about Anna for 2 hours, I could probably talk about Jordan for 4
Jordan, you
hours.
could do. Listen, I could do Five Town. I know that obviously we use these shows in a different way than our
Yeah.
usual sports watch shows, but we could basically spend like a whole year on Jordan Tobin. I could spend a whole year talking about her games, talking about her
Yep.
plays, her moments, her rewards. And this kid, to boot, really is a very humble, modest
Yep.
person that really
100%.
doesn't want to talk about herself. And she's again an unbelievable student. I don't know. She's got to be like Wonder Woman because she's a
Yeah.
straight A student. She's got
I
a
called her
job.
that
She
a couple of
plays.
times. I called her Wonder
Does she
Woman a
sleep
couple
at
of
all?
times.
Does what is she human?
So, for me, her leadership just stands out. And people say, "Oh, I'm a two-sport athlete. I'm a three-sport athlete." Yes, if you play three sports, two sports, that's fine. To excel at the level that Jordan excels at in her sports
Oh my
is
God,
just
it's
she's the female Bo Jackson for me, the female Deion Sanders, that kind of, you know, athlete. And for my money, if we do a Hall of Fame at the college, her jersey's got to be the first one in the rafters.
well, you spoke Hall of Fame. So I don't know if she would want to accept a Hall of Fame that the station has, but certainly in Five Towns, I would have to think when we think about Hall of Fames, if we do one, the first person that has to go in is Jordan Tobin, right?
I mean, and listen, they've had some incredible players. Damani Merritt for the men's
Oh,
basketball team.
Damani's
You know,
trying his hand playing pro.
there's
Yeah.
been some really unbelievable athletes, but Jordan is just that special kid. Like, if you could handpick a child, to be your own child, because you would be so proud of them and things like that, she's definitely up there. Like I said, her and Anna, I wish they could have played together for 4 years, because that would be just unbelievable, what we could have built as far as a legacy. But it's more of a passing of the torch. And I tease Anna a little bit that she's got some big shoes to fill. She can't grow 10 inches, but she could, she
Does
could.
that make you feel though like what if, because you only get Jordan for 1 year? That's gotta, in a
Yeah, and
way,
she's
does it
another
make
one
you
I'm
feel what if?
negotiating the COVID year for, because it's one of those things. But to coach her for 1 year, I consider myself just that lucky, just to see her perform at that level. You can't ask for somebody that gives more to her team and her teammates, and she puts everybody else first. It just, you can't. You said, is she even human? And some days I wonder. if she is, because
No,
I don't know
when
how
I
she
had
does
her
it
on
all.
here, and this was a couple years ago, I even felt bad just speaking to her because it was like she just got off a shift at work. She was on her phone and she went to
Yeah,
school that day. And it's like, that's the kind of person that she is, and the dedication. I
yeah.
think the dedication that she has and a commitment to obviously the staff here, also her teammates, to her students, and to the overall school. I mean, like I really do think, and Kyrie Sawyer was amazing. Damani
Mhm.
Merritt, I've had Damani on a bunch of times. Damani's a friend. Kyrie Sawyer, I had on here a couple times. He was probably the first great player the entire athletics department had. But I feel like at the end of the day, if you're starting a Hall of Famer, frankly, you're starting a team, whether it's the
Yeah.
women's soccer team, the basketball team. Jordan Tobin is exactly the person I start my
She
team
is
with.
number one, and Anna's 1A for me as
Yeah,
far as
I
that
agree with
goes.
that.
But I think that people are going to get a chance to see her. I don't know if you're familiar. She's playing with the Five Towns women against Army on the
Yeah,
30th,
I
this
did see
Saturday.
that. Yes, I
And
did.
it's
Yes, I
going to
did.
be televised on ESPN Plus. And I think if people have that and have access to that game, you should watch Jordan Tobin and the women's basketball
Well,
team
let
for
me
that
ask you.
matter.
Let me ask you a question, and I didn't have this planned with you. Again, we're speaking with the head coach of the Five Towns Sound women's soccer team, Jeff Littwin. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. I mean, for Five Towns in the athletics program to get on that stage, regardless of the outcome of the game, to be able
Mhm.
to get on ESPN Plus from afar. I know, obviously, you're not on the women's basketball team, but we obviously all support the school. We all support the program here. What does that do, you think, in breaking doors down by seeing one of our teams get a chance to be nationally televised on ESPN Plus this Saturday and play a team like Army? What do you think that does for the program, in your opinion?
I'm hoping it does exactly what I think it can do, which is bring exposure to our family and to our programs, and just show that we are right there. And with a couple of recruits that believe in us, the way Jordan believed in us, the way Damani believed in us, the way Angel Chavez believed in
Sebastian
Katrina.
Montenegro, Juan
Yes, Sebastian
Lopez. Yep.
Montenegro.
Yep.
The way they believe in, with a couple more players like that, I think we could be on that stage on a permanent level. I mean, it's an amazing get by Coach Jocks and Matt to put this game
That's
together.
not easy to do. Listen,
Oh,
I mean,
not at all.
to have something like that, to be able to at this level,
Hmm.
like that's almost like unheard of, for the
Yeah,
fact that our school gets a chance to be nationally televised against playing a really one of the most well-known schools in the
absolutely.
entire, not even in the country, the world, in
The world,
Army. I mean, that's
absolutely.
like unbelievable.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, I will be in attendance with my son at that game. I wouldn't miss that
Okay,
for the world. Number two, my dad wanted me to go to West Point. I think I told you last time he was a
you did.
soldier,
Yep.
and I
Yeah.
actually could have gotten in, but that was not for me. And third, a young lady that I coached my last year during the senior game is actually on the women's Army soccer team.
Oh
So,
wow.
I'm hoping to, get to see her, because I haven't seen her since I coached her, at that. But it's just it's one of those you have to visit West Point once in your life. You have to visit, Notre Dame once in your life. There are just certain things, as a
Sure.
sports fan.
North
Yeah,
Carolina, Duke.
as a
Yep.
sports fan, that you have to
UCLA.
do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, even though I didn't go to Army, I kind of feel like my dad will be with me that day, because that would be something. Like, I still watch the Army Navy football game.
Oh,
Obviously, that's
everybody.
yeah.
That's a national thing to do. I
And
mean,
I'll probably buy an Army T-shirt while I'm there, or something like that.
you sure?
Um,
We're live on Sportswire. Gershio hears this and goes, Tom Bryce from Staten Island. I heard that.
well, no, no, no. I'll still be wearing my Five Towns
All
gear,
right, all
but
right, all right.
it's just one of those things. Listen, you can root. I still root for Penn State football, but I guess I could stop if we got a football team at Five
Well,
Towns.
I actually know, I had a friend of mine that actually went to Penn State, and I know two other people in my neighborhood that went to Penn State and they would go to the football game. But that's here nor there. But let me ask you one more question on the Army thing, and I want to come back.
Mhm.
Obviously, I want to talk about Chelsea Martinez and Janie Martinez as well. But in terms of Jordan, have you spoken to Jordan at all about what she's thinking in terms of what it means to her to go to and play an Army? Have you spoke to her about that?
I haven't, but I know her. I think I know her pretty well. That It doesn't phase her. I think she just
Yeah.
looks at it as another game, a great opportunity to get, exposure and things like that. But I don't think she does it for that. I think she literally will do everything in her power. If I had to predict her stat line, I would say she would have more assists than points in this game because I think she will do everything in her power to make her teammates better and look good on national TV before she would do that for herself. It's just who she is as a player and as a person. I mean,
Well,
I could be way off, but
no,
that would be my
I
prediction.
believe it because I've had Jordan on here, so I know, in a sense, that very brief time I got a chance to speak with her, that 45 minutes or whatever it was, we had her on the worldwide Sportswire radio at the time. We were back in Sportnarium when we were a UK station. Having her on the air and getting her heard in that audience that we used to have a lot more so overseas was a really big deal. And I think that, yes, she's a very humble person, doesn't really look for the spotlight. And I think that that's really why she's going to be somebody we all can be proud of. I want to congratulate, obviously, Coach Jakes for that opportunity. We're certainly looking forward to obviously speaking with him afterwards. I know we're going to have coverage of the basketball teams. I just unfortunately have to rain check with Coach Drizel, but we certainly look forward to more of that. But if you are on Sportswire Radio, I would hope you check us out anytime for past, present, and future shows on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579 backspace streams. You can also check us out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on sportswireradio.org, our brand new website, which yours truly designed. And if you have a podcast out there, if you want to play live music, if you want to be able to hear your voice heard on the World Wide Web, you can message me and check us out anytime here. And also, we have a brand new blog where Jason Facina was featured on our blog here. And obviously, we'd announced that Jason Facina, the next time he comes on to Sportswire Radio, would be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, because actually I'm wearing a shirt right now for the Malloy men's basketball team. And if you can see that here, and one of our guests that's been on here 5 times, actually more times than Jason Facina, who gave me this shirt, is actually an assistant coach on the team. His name is Jason Gaudier. So Coach G, as he's lovingly known, or maybe not so lovingly known, depending on who you are, is actually going to come back to Sports by Radio after the season. Obviously, the guys got a huge win last week, and they're back on the court also this Saturday. They won their second game of the season. He's going to be actually inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he's all about being in the Hall of Fame, and he's really excited about it, whereas Coach Vicino was kind of like almost had to think about it. But obviously, I want to shout out Coach G and the Malloy men's basketball team for this. But
Well,
if you do,
I want to give a shout out to Coach Gordieso as
yeah.
well. His niece is actually a professional soccer player.
Yes,
Alyssa,
yes, I believe we
yes,
spoke about that before. Yes.
Alyssa Albandaldo, and I got to watch a few of her games via streams and things like that. And she came and spoke to the team. Somebody like Chelsea Martinez has aspirations of playing on the next level after college. And it was great to get Alyssa to come in and speak about what it is being a college athlete and then moving on to the next level. And just and I really have to thank Coach Gordieso for setting that up.
Yes, Coach Gordieso is definitely a good man. I know, obviously, he and Coach Vicina have this, I guess, friendly back and forth.
Yeah, it's a banter. I told Coach Vicina he has to start signing his name with HOF after it now too.
Well, I'm going to get to that at the end of the show, but Coach Gordieso has been a big supporter of mine for a very long time, and I've obviously followed him back when he was a coach at CCNY for the Beavers, the men's basketball team, obviously St. Joe's. We've done work with St. Joe's in the past, and he was coaching there for a while, about 2 years, 1 year in the COVID year, then obviously 2 years ago, and obviously now him here with Malloy. So obviously Coach G has done a phenomenal job in everywhere he's gone. Also congratulate him also on having a baby. So he's having a baby. So
yes,
we definitely want to wish him well, but we'll certainly come back to that. But I guess since you mentioned it, Chelsea Martinez, I mean, what a player. And my first thing I'm going to say, which you're going to probably like, why would you go and start with this? Why was she not on first or even second team Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference? I mean, this was your best player offensively. And I don't understand why that she was not even at all, just other than honorable mention. She should have been first or second team. Can you talk about why that was?
I think part of it was that she didn't have as good a season as she did last season. By her own admission, she was not happy with the season that she had. And to be honest, I think that actually happening might be beneficial in the long run, because I think it lit a fire in her belly. Like, wait a second, I was on top of the mountain and I fell down, and I want to be back there again.
Still scoring 4 goals and a dozen points is kind of hard for me to fathom. She fell down. It was still a really successful
No,
season.
and that's just the standards that I hold her to, that Coach Gabby holds her to. I think Coach Facina had said it last time when he was
Yep.
on, that if she ever figures out how
Yep.
good she
Yeah,
can be,
I know.
it's scary. It is scary what that girl can do with a soccer ball. And, you know, it just, she doesn't want to see. Like, a lot of people have asked me that question, like, why is she not your captain? She played for you in high school and things like that. She doesn't want it. She wants to play her game. She wants to help her teammate, but she doesn't want to shoulder that responsibility that's going to take away, or in her mind, take away from being the best soccer player that she can be. Um, so I have a feeling you're going to see an even better season than the last two. She could actually, in my opinion, touch the stats combined next year that
Yeah,
she had the first two
I've
seasons.
always felt, and we were really excited about the fact that you had known her before. You'd known that family and you had that relationship, but maybe in a way that's what she needed, maybe to have the year. Well, it's still an amazing season. Maybe she needed to have the year that she had this year to kind of use that as motivation for
Mhm,
next year, where we're expecting you, obviously, now that you've had the job for a little while, to go out and have the season that you hoped. I mean, this year, again, I still think it's building blocks and that it takes
mhm,
time. Rome wasn't built in a day, but in terms of that, I also think that not everybody's a captain. Not everybody has that personality. Not everybody has that type A personality. Anna might have that personality.
mhm.
Jordan was more on the quiet side. I think Abby,
Oh, she
Abby,
can get loud. Listen, if you don't do something in front of Jordan that you're supposed to be doing, she will hold you accountable. She has no problem getting loud when she has to. But
sure, but I think you might need somebody else to step in that captain role. Anna basically is somebody with the notebook, somebody with that kind of analytical mindset.
yep.
That might be the player that you might want to have, and it allows players like Chelsea to go out, the kind of year that we need to go out and win more games, go out there and be in nationals, and also talk to me about Janie Martinez. I was
Well,
asking
it's
about
funny that you
Janie.
mentioned it because there was some talk about what Janie's role will be moving forward. Does she have the ability to step up into that captain role? She was a captain in high school at Wyandanch. She got off to a little bit of a tough start. We were trying to find a position for her. She played center mid in high school, but she wasn't finding the ball as much as we had liked, and we moved her to right back, and she really started to find herself as a defender. And she's working really hard. She's one of the girls I'm most proud of. She knocked 4 minutes off of her mile time from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. She's, like I said, she's grabbing other girls now. They're heading to the gym. Coach Gabby has designed workout plans for all of them, so they're starting to, now next season has already started, so to speak, as far as the training goes and things like that. And I really think that she's on the trajectory. She was one of the young ladies, the first one to reach out to me last year after I got the job, and I recruited her, and she saw me on your show about how she couldn't wait to
I
come
know
and
you
play.
spoke to me about that, and that's
Yeah,
why
and
it's
like I
important.
said, it was an adjustment for her from high school to college. She was one of those girls I was saying that they didn't realize how big a difference it was, but by the end of the season, she was really stepping up. She was a player of the week off of the
Yep.
Maritime game. She scored a nice header off of a corner from Chelsea. She's going to be a player for us if she keeps working as hard as she has been. Since she finally figured it out. What I'm really most proud of is her grades have improved significantly, over the course of the year. And like I said, that to me is the dedication in the classroom, out of the classroom.
No, absolutely. And we always say it here. That's what's most important here at Five Towns. You want to be a student athlete. You got to be the first part first in order
Mhm.
to be very, because you don't want to be like me right here doing this live on Sportswire. It was a joke. I'm trying to be funny.
Well,
Trying to
no,
be
I joke around. I said to any girl who gets higher than a 77 when they graduate is better than me because I was not the
Yeah,
best student in the world.
unfortunately, when I wanted to apply myself, I was, a very good student. But
Yeah.
for me, my skills were more like my street skills and my
Yep.
networking, which allowed me
Well,
to,
being from
different
Queens, you
things.
being from Staten Island, we have
Well,
that
I'm from
street
Brooklyn
smarts.
first. I grew up,
Yep.
in
There
Bay
you
Ridge and
go.
Bensonhurst. Life was not easy. I can assure
Nope.
you growing up. My parents, basically we didn't have much money and I basically, had to learn, my way around and it wasn't really till I was in high school that my parents
Yep.
moved and, my life changed a little bit, but my definitely upbringings growing up were definitely greatest, but hey, that's why I'm here. That's why they'll be better than me. But I want to bring up one more player is Wildren Hernandez. We got to talk about Wildren Hernandez. I want to move on to a
Absolutely.
few other things.
Yeah. So Wildren played for me in high school, and if I told you she only played 1 year of organized ball, you'd never know it. I mean, Coach Facina keeps comparing her to Anthony Campos, which is an unbelievable
Oh, that's
compliment.
we spoke a lot
Yeah.
about Campos on the show recently. That's
Yeah,
a
and
big, big
he
comparison.
thinks she could be on that level. I don't disagree. She's not a fan of playing in the middle. She'd rather be a winger, but she will do whatever I ask. I
Sure,
literally had to beg her family for 4 years, and they finally acquiesced in her senior year to let her play. She always had responsibilities at home and things like that, and she's just a great player. I asked her to do something she never did this year when we were playing Word of Life. I asked her to lock down their best player, and she did. That girl, every time she touched the ball, Wildren locked her down. That girl did not score, and she was the rookie of the year. That player for the conference, and she was a first team HVAC player, and Wildren literally shut her out. And I said, I called I called the doctor during the game because I wanted her so far up her, like a proctologist, that and we all had a good laugh about it. But she still continues to amaze me. I could only imagine what she would be had she played all 4 years of high school, and
sure.
what she will be by the time she graduates. She's just always looking to get better. She would go to Coach Gabby after practice and do extra work with her. And Coach, you need me to play goalie today because Jordan's working, or
Sure.
like just an amazing, amazing young lady. I'm trying to bring in a couple of girls from Roosevelt that with this recruiting class, obviously, that were my girls as well. It'll also breed some familiarity. They all look up to Chelsea. They all look up to Wildren. It just, it literally is trying to carry that family, atmosphere over. So,
No, I think you're gonna do it because I think again we've established, and that's why I said it the first time when I endorsed you with the job, and then the second time I'm having you on here to kind of talk about a season that was. It's important at Five Towns. I think we have people here that understand that and also want to do more than just be coaches. Obviously, Jason's role here, Corey, what he's done now, and basically the same amount of time you've had with the job, and obviously Greg. God bless Greg, love Greg. But we have coaches here that I think want to go out and be people more than just coaches, be the way that we can lead our students and our student athletes to places that will make them extremely productive members of society. And I do want to bring up Coach Gabby, obviously your
mhm.
assistant. And before I bring up some other things to plug in, Coach Gabby, obviously very unique story. We spoke about this in the past, but having her this year, how important was she on your first year with this job?
First of all, having a woman by my side really is extremely helpful. Sometimes the
Absolutely.
girls, when they have a male coach, they might not feel as comfortable speaking about certain things. So having Gabby there is,
You can't relate to
unbelievable.
those things, sure.
Right. I'm afraid to eat in front of Coach Gabby because she's a nutrition freak.
You
Uh,
did speak about that the first time on the air.
yeah,
You did speak about that.
she just won a fitness crown out in California.
Oh, wow.
She missed training camp because she was competing, but we want to support her dreams and goals as
Sure.
well. She
Mhm.
works in the city at Mayfield's, the gym,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
when she brought a couple of the girls there, she was even helping out with the men's team, designing workouts for them and nutrition plans. She's just been a godsend. But the funniest thing is that she played at Malloy when Facina, Morelli, and not Glancy.
Wells?
No, not Wells. my Topol, were there. And Morelli asked me, hey, do you have an assistant yet? And I said, I've got some things. He goes, listen, I got a girl for you. So I said, all right, let's see if we vibe. So I call her up, and the first question she asked me, she goes, wait, you were from Roosevelt, right? And I said, well, I'm still from Roosevelt. What do you mean? She goes, do you know DK Henry? I go, oh my God, what do you know about DK? She goes, she was my best friend growing up in high school. I'm like, get the heck out of here. So the first time we end up meeting in person, we get on a FaceTime call, and she's like, hey, she starts talking, and she turns the phone. She goes, Coach, what are you doing with Gabby? I go, I'm about to hire her as my assistant. So it just goes to show you how crazy small the world is, and that connection. And the minute I knew there was a DK connection, I knew we were going to get along, because it's just, that's the way it is. I mean, she grew up in Baldwin, so she understands the whole Roosevelt thing. She lives in Freeport, so she's that area kind of girl. And she just, as a D2 soccer player at Malloy, she brings that perspective to
Absolutely.
it. I get to be dad, and she gets to be mom, and it's a great relationship. She brings a lot of wonderful ideas. When I'm recruiting, I say, girls, you're going to be in the best shape of your life, after Coach Gabby gets through with you. It's just, something that she believes in, and she works with women all the time to get them in shape and, find their fitness goals. And, I think Coach talked about it. One of the biggest things that was on the men's side is also on the women's side is the conditioning, getting through that 90-minute game. Remember, in high school, it's only an 80-minute game. So that 10 extra minutes might not seem like a lot, but
no, 10 minutes. Not to bring up wrestling, but as somebody that does a lot of wrestling on Sportswire, there is a massive difference in 10 minutes. You may think 10 minutes is not a long time, but I can promise you, again, as somebody that does a lot of wrestling, and I just had this conversation with a wrestler off the air about a 10-minute match versus a 15 to 20-minute match. I can promise you an 80-minute soccer game versus a 90-minute soccer game is a massive difference. Massive.
Just to talk about the Word of Life game, we tied it up. We're 1-1. We've got no subs because of injuries, and the girls are just begging off. They're like, can we play down? I need a minute. And I'm just like, girls, we got 6 minutes left. You got to hang on. You got to figure this out. Just keep, bombing the ball down the field, and I did jujitsu. We used to do something called King of the Hill, and just wrestling for 6 minutes was unbelievable. And then you talked about wrestling. Ric Flair used to do hour matches, and I'm like, how did he do those hour? And he was doing them when he was in his 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I just watched Iron Claw, so I could, I saw some of that. But you don't know. Endurance and conditioning is so important. And I think having Gabby here also really is going to help us into the recruiting job that you're going to have in a few months, because, obviously Etor and certainly Topol, and he's got Glancy now on the other end with Facina. So he's got coaches and players that have won and been at a high level, but having Gabby also this, nationally fitness champion, and, somebody that's also in her job is conditioning, but also has played. I think that's going to be an important tool. And then talking about that is segueing here for the second part of the show and some current events and different things, recruiting. Last time we spoke and, you had the job, you were in the process of recruiting. So what's it like now in recruiting, and, what are the goals in 2024 for the team?
Well, now I have an approach. Like last year, it was just kind of grab anybody you can,
you have to fill the roster.
Right. And now it's like, okay, we're losing Jordan. I have to concentrate on getting a goalie. Now we're losing Abby. I need to concentrate on getting so now your recruiting needs kind of change, we have, Chelsea here. We've got Wildren there. So right. Anna's there. Those positions aren't of need. Now we do need to get backups for them in case of injury, in case of just needing a break and things like that. But those become less of a priority. What formation do I want to run? So I want to make sure that I get the players to fill those positions properly. So we're not having this person play out of position and this person play out of position, because, at the end of the day, it ends up, hurting. So like I said, I think I've compiled a list of about 25 names right now that I'm working on.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I won't get all 25. I mean, that's. That's
Yeah.
obvious.
I don't think you want to get all 25, right? 'Cause,
Listen, competition, bringing in a lot of girls would breed competition.
Sure, but that's a lot though, 25 to add to the roster, right? I mean,
No, like I said, I know I won't get that. The goal is to pull in another 5 or 6 like I did
I
last
was
year.
gonna say realistically, I
Yeah,
would say if you got
yeah.
5 to 7, would be pretty
And
fair.
obviously 10 would be pie in the sky. I would be over the moon if I could pull a full 10. But like I said, it's also finding the quality kid. There's a couple of girls that I recruited. And I went to watch them play, and I watched the parents, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to bring that into our program. Is this person out there making them better? Will they jive with our family? Will they get along? You could bring in the wrong person. It could literally set your program back.
Sure.
And it's just one of those things. It's a balancing act because you want to find enough players to fill the roster, but you also want to bring in the right players. So, I have 3 international girls that would love to come and play, but when they're international, it's a whole other hurdle.
A lot of protocols there.
Yeah, a lot of protocols. It's a financial aspect to it too, because they don't get financial aid. We don't.
It reminds me, I had a baseball coach come on the show from Kingsborough Community College, and they landed a player from Italy, and it's very even at the CUNY level. Getting an international player, there's a lot of things that you have to go through. But I think that it's what's important to note is that now this is going to be year 2, so you kind of have some things under you that you learned what to do and what not to do, and you're kind of building the identity of the type of player, the profile that you have here in order to where we need to be even more successful. And certainly we had moments, the Maritime game, the Word of Life, the Bucks game. So there's games that we can build upon next season where I think that obviously we'll do a lot better, and I think that that's why I'm excited about the program. Again, you want people to follow the Five Town Sound women's soccer team and FTC women's soccer. Also, please support as well the men's soccer team, FTC men's soccer. Also, please support our Five Town Sound athletics department at 5towns_sound. We always love everything that this program has done. The athletics department from Matt Gershio on down. Obviously, Coach Vicina's assistant AD for purchasing and order, and Dr. Jeff as well. Got to give Dr. Jeff a big shout out, and obviously Coach Shakes, Coach Rizal, but this is a program that's always been with us. It's always been sound on here on Sportswire Radio. So we have some things actually promoting the current events because we have January 14th and the 21st. We have a futsal tournament to talk about here. So let's talk about this, what it is. I know obviously I promoted these in the past, but you and Coach Vicina are running this. So what can we expect coming up here in a few weeks?
So the futsal is a great little thing that we do. It helps us raise some money for the little bit of extras that we want to get the players and things like that. Help offset some costs and things like that. But it's also a good way to look at some players and do a little recruiting, show them around the school and things like that.
Do you think I have some eligibility?
So, we have obviously a men's division and a women's division. Sure. It's just, it's a great way for players to come and see the school and see what we have to offer. The men's team helps referee the games. My girls will be involved as well. We have some scorekeeping going on. We're trying to film the games. So that everybody can see the studio and so on.
We can't get Sydney Mountain to go and broadcast this. I mean, she's everywhere.
Sydney. Yeah, she is everywhere. I mean, she's done an unbelievable job with the basketball games.
Oh my God!
I said to her, if you're not going to play next year, I expect you to do that for soccer games. Let's build this up.
Oh my God! Well, she's speaking about people that are going to go on and do bigger things. I mean, Sydney Mountain's going to definitely do that.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if we didn't really get to talk about this at all, but earlier in the year, we worked with the amputee team, the national amputee team.
Paige Palazzo, because who's actually break the fourth wall. She's going to be on Sportswire Radio here in a few weeks. Paige
is awesome. I was out with her the other night. We had a little staff get together, and Paige is one of those individuals that hangs out with our little crew. She's an amazing person.
What a story there. She's
unbelievable.
Overseas and with the amputee team. I mean, it's going to be really an inspiring story.
So my wife is a runner, and she runs with Sam Ryan from.
Yeah, I know Sam.
And
Ryan.
What happened was, Sam knew who I was, obviously through my wife, and I asked Sydney if she wanted to meet her. Because that's kind of like an idol for her.
Sure, absolutely. MLB Network, ABC, absolutely.
Yeah, so So I said, "You want to meet Sam Ryan? Come on over." And they had a nice little conversation and things like that. I don't know if it'll lead to anything, but that would be an amazing person to have in your corner trying to
Oh.
break into this industry.
Sam Ryan in your
Yeah.
corner? I mean, I think you're gonna
So
probably do pretty well in life, you know.
yeah, I would think so.
Not
And
bigger than Tom Bryson in the corner. Now, if you wanted
no,
to be
no,
in backyard
not
wrestling,
that,
I'd
but
say, all right, I can get you there. But Sam Ryan's gonna get Sydney Mountain to where she really, really, I think, will wind up being. So that's
yeah,
a big
and
deal.
Sam's an amazing person. I love my wife's friendship with her, so it just it was a great day, and to work with those guys and to help us play, and the girls got a whole new respect for what they were able to do, and it was just a great day, and I love working with that organization. Coach Jim, who's the coach and everything
Yep.
along with Paige, just an amazing guy, totally supportive of our program, came to some of our stuff.
Yeah, I spoke with Paige actually a little bit, and it's a really inspiring story what she's done, the different things, and I'm really, really looking forward to that, and obviously getting a chance to talk with her and share that journey, and
And the
obviously,
community that we're building is, way beyond soccer. It's just the network and everything. And, Paige is a goalie coach, and
sure.
that could help me in the long run, since that's
Well,
the position I need to replace. So
Well, I would have no doubt that we'll certainly talk about that. And obviously, I'm very excited to have Paige on the show. We'll have a formal announcement after the new year, and that'll be the second week of January. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I want to thank Coach Facina for that. So, I guess then I did want to obviously segue a little bit into what you learned from Coach Facina going down there to Nationals. We spoke about earlier on in the show that the guys get in there and the cancellations, which hurts you guys, coincidentally, unfortunately, hurt the men's team. They didn't have a rhythm really until the middle of the season. They, lost the 3-4 games, and they would have certainly had them, would have easily got them probably the at-large, maybe a higher seed and a better seed, and maybe would have probably got them even into the Hudson Valley, winning the conference tournament. But what was that experience like, and what did you learn from going down there to nationals with the men's team? And anything else that you wanted to share in terms of how you helped the team prepare to go down there in Pittsburgh?
yeah, so Jay couldn't stop thanking. Actually, all of them couldn't stop thanking me
Yep, he was on
because
here and spoke about how important you
yeah,
actually
I
were. You were
mean,
really
but
important down there.
part of when Matt talked to me about going down, he said, "How do you feel about going down and helping out?" And I said, "Hey, if they need me to go down and help out, I'm going to do whatever they need. I know they don't need another coach, so I'm going to take off their plate." Whatever they need me to take off their plate. So I organized all the meals and, made sure all the guys were fed and everything. I stayed down at the far end of the bench and just was kind of monitoring the guys and making sure they were getting loose, in case they were ready to go in and things like that. But just taking everything off of the coach's plate so they could concentrate on the game and do that. And they were super supportive. Going back to the Word of Life, when I got named coach of the year, we
Yep.
were teasing Jason a little bit because he won the national coach of the year but never won the HVAC coach of the year. So
Well, I think I spoke about that in the prior show. I definitely, because I've had Jason on 4 times, and I believe that came up in 21 when they had the magical dream season. Yeah, that was actually a topic of contention now, actually. I
yeah,
don't want to say
and it was
on
funny
the
because
air.
the there when I won the award, the girls were so proud and they blew up my phone and everything. But my first text back was to all of them. I would trade this plaque for you girls to be here at nationals because like I said, it's always going to be about them. But going down there and having that experience with the boys I'm a huge fan of theirs. I mean, they're just amazing young men. They're doing
Absolutely.
everything right.
So nice, humble,
Yeah,
very
I
down
mean,
to earth, very family, as you spoke about. A lot of them very religious, very, God fearing, just, hard workers. Their families come from backgrounds where they're so dedicated. And,
mhm,
I mean, they've been so, you want to talk about family. I mean, again, their 11 Hearts beating is one, and
yep.
everything's family with them. I mean, again, those players, I've had on a lot of those players past and present over the years, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a few of them on before the end of the spring semester, and just they're really, really just a
No,
great group
amazing. I
of
mean,
guys. Yep.
and coach will never say it, but the injuries played a huge part in why we didn't advance to where we did. He doesn't make excuses. It's next man up. And as a
Sure.
coach, we all believe that. But he was missing some really significant pieces.
Absolutely.
down at nationals, and we still almost pulled it off. We're up to
I know.
with 20 minutes to go. It's just
You're
one
up,
of
you're
those
expecting to
things that
win. Yeah, absolutely. We rehashed it here, and
it's just,
and
but like I said, they were amazing young men. They made me feel like I was one of their actual coaches, and there was never like, oh, he's not. He's the women's coach. We don't got to listen, or we don't got to do this. They even asked me a couple of times, what do you think? What are you seeing? And things like that. So it was just an incredible experience. It really lit a fire under me that I want to be back there, but I want to be back there with my team. No offense to
well,
Coach.
Matt. Well, Matt is no. Well,
Yeah.
Matt has always said, Matt. I had a conversation with Matt. This was right when they were in the dream season in 2021, and he was on the phone with me, and I can say it now because it's a couple years ago, that his dream was to get all the teams down there. He wanted every team down there, whether it's the women's basketball, men's basketball, the soccer teams. He wanted everybody down there, and he wanted a championship. He wanted a ring. And, I think that that's what has to drive you, seeing that experience. And I know that we've gone down to nationals and we've come up short. And I know that it's got to be tough. It's got to be disappointing. Coach had said some things, and, obviously, it's emotional to talk about, but, you have to want to see that go forward into fruition. That's got to motivate you coming back into next season, because you got a taste of it, even though you were there, but it really wasn't your team. You know what I'm saying? So almost it has to give you that motivation that, what? Yeah, they did it, and I want to join them, because I think that Matt's goal has always been that he wants a ring, but also he wants all four of our teams, really our flagship teams, the basketball and the soccer teams, to go down to the USCAAs.
Right. And to that end, the school, Coach Facina, Matt, myself, we're all working on some pretty big things that, we don't want to say anything until they come.
Don't say it on the Sportzwire, because I'll get in big doo-doo on that.
But, like, to see the support we're getting from the school and from the athletics department and so on and so forth really shows the investment in that dream of getting all of the teams to nationals. And, once again, hopefully everything works out. Sometimes things happen beyond our control, but if it happens, it will be the next level, and it will be a pretty amazing thing to see. So,
well, we're going to certainly find out, and I have to bring this obviously in the remaining time of the show. You spoke about Coach Facina and the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, which we've obviously had 6 people now inducted into it. Ernest Dove, our own, the first from the Sportswire Radio team, going back from the days of the Sports Report and Sportnarium. We were on a UK radio station to now where we are at Sportswire Radio, that are really the home of all types of wrestling, especially in the underground and in the backyard. I'm going to leave that for a different time. But Coach Facina was kind of like, almost like, didn't want to be inducted. It was almost like, well, here's a guy that's been a champion as a player. He's been a champion as a coach. He's been one of our biggest supporters. His record's 38, 16, and 7 at 5 towns. I mean, he was basically also at the helm of the women's team, had some success there. He's an assistant AD for purchasing. I mean, you have to talk about, like, what was with Coach Facina's response in not wanting to be in this Hall of Fame. Was almost like he had to think about, whereas Jason Gordieso, he blows up my phone every day, Coach C. He's like, when am I getting inducted? When am I getting inducted? He's like, what number am I going to be in the Hall of Fame? I'm like, well, we have a lot of wrestlers that are going to be inducted first, and, kind of a big deal with that. We have to get through some of our pro athletes that are going to come back, and it's my 5-year anniversary on January 25th. But Coach Facina was almost like, I don't know. It was like he froze. I mean, you got to talk about that, because I'm going to induct you one day. Get one more season under your belt. But, Coach Facina has been one of my biggest champions throughout my nearly 5 years. He's been with me coming on the show every year since COVID. And I don't understand. He was kind of almost like didn't want the award.
Well, I can't obviously speak for him, but I think part of it is he and I get along so well because I think we're so like-minded. And when I got the award for the Coach of the Year, I was embarrassed. Literally, I didn't even want to accept it because, although we did some good things this season, I literally wanted another coach to get it because I felt they had a better season, and somebody said something very poignant to me. I believe it was Matt, who said, there's going to be a year that you're going to have an amazing season
and you're not going to get it.
Win it. So take it when it comes.
2021 with Facina. Listen, I mean,
right.
He didn't.
And that obviously meant a lot. But I think Jason and I, it's not about the accolades for us individually. It's the accolades for our team. You know, when the boys put on the rings for the championship, then we can not relax, but we can say, okay, we did our job. We deserve, you know, I said it to you last time I was on here. If my girls don't do what they do, I get none of this. If, you know, like it you know, we put them in a position to be successful, and then it's like being a parent. You put them in you raise them, you put them in a chance to be successful, and then you send them out into the world and you pray for the best. I think it's the same thing as coaches. We prepare them on and off the pitch, and, you know, whatever happens, you know, we're hoping they get their accolades. Like you said, I was more upset with Chelsea's third team than probably she was.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a complete abomination. I'm sorry to
So,
say it on
no,
the air.
listen,
That was
I
honorable
get
mention.
it. So,
Abomination. It was
but now,
abomination.
as a good coach and a good parent, I have to say, did that wake you up a little bit? Did that fire you up?
Now
Did
you can say that. I don't have to say that because I'm not in your chair. Now, if I was in
Right.
your chair, sure, of course, I got to say it in a different tone. But, you know, with Coach Facina, real quick, not to labor along, because obviously I want to ask
Yeah.
you a couple more things before we sign off. And obviously, it has been an honor to have you once again. As always, we're here with the head coach of
No,
the
it's
Five
always great
Downtown
to be here,
women's
Tom.
soccer
Thank you.
team, Jeff Woodman. But I mean, 38, 16, and 7. He was number one in the country in the USCAs for a long time in 2021. He's been in the top 5 this year, and last year he's been ranked in the top 10. And, you know, he's won, you know, 3 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference regular season titles. He won the 2021 championship, 3 trips to the USCA Nationals. And, you know, he was USCA Coach of the Year in 2021. And, I mean, you know, all the seasons that he's had, all the players that he's had play here at Five Towns. I mean, what, 8 players that were recognized in the HVAC this year in the men's team,
And
USCA.
not for nothing, Steven got, well,
I
never
know.
mind.
I've spoke
Like,
about that in the past. You know, but the point is that when I think about the definition of a Hall of Famer, the Hall of Fame is somebody that was extraordinary at their position or at the
mhm.
field and the body of work that they have had, and legitimately over these 5 years that Coach Facina, I know we missed 1 year of COVID, but the 5 years he's coached here at Five Towns, he's, as far as I understand, the definition of a Hall of Fame is actually the definition of a Hall of Famer, because again, he's had the job since December 14, 2018. I repeat, 38, 16, and 7. 3 wins in the
Mhm.
USCA national tournament, basically starting the program from scratch. He's
Yep.
also, again, won, 3 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic regular season titles, 1 in the postseason, 3 trips to the USCA. He's been number 1 in the country for a period of time. And all these players of the year and players of the week and conference players, blah, 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 blah. And that's, to me, the definition of a Hall of Famer. Somebody for a period of time was extraordinary, and somebody that went out. Also, on top of that, the icing on the cake as a player, Coach Facina wasn't too bad either, and also played in the NCAA tournament. So to
Yeah.
me, as far as I understand, Coach, I know you got to be obviously diplomatic about it, but he would seem like, to me, somebody that would be a pretty good candidate to be a member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but I think, speaking for myself, being
Yeah.
in that position as with Coach Facina, you're a sports guy. If you ask
Yes.
Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, Ernie Banks, all of those guys, would they give up personal accolades for a championship? I think they
I
would
mean,
all
Patrick
say
Ewing,
yes
yeah,
to
Patrick
to
Ewing,
the end.
definitely.
And I think that's the same way Coach Facina looks at it. Like, he looks at all of those accolades and it's still missing the big one.
Yeah,
And
but again, I get all that, but in my Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, we were obviously inducting people that have been on the show, have come on here, and have done things or exemplify something extraordinary to be recognized. And I think that comparing him to the different people that are already in and will wind up being in, like, he's right there at the top of the list,
yeah,
because again, his record also as an educator, his record as somebody that's mentored these youths to go out and become successful individuals off the field. And I think, again, what he's done as a player and a coach, to me, like, I understand, I agree with you. Maybe we haven't won the national championship yet. We'll get there. But my
no
Hall of
doubt in my mind,
but my
no
Hall of
doubt.
Fame, though, doesn't really have a problem with that, because, again, Patrick Ewing's in the Hall of Fame. You mentioned him. Charles
Yeah,
Barkley's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, listen, Mike Piazza for Mets fans is in the Hall of Fame. He didn't win a
yep.
World Series. I mean, so at the end of the day, you can go up and down in sports history and list off all the different people. listen, if we're wrestling fans, I mean, Scott Hall's in the Hall of Fame twice as Razor Ramon and Scott Hall. He didn't win the WWF at the time or the WCW World Championship. I mean, the British Bulldogs in the Hall of Fame. He didn't win the World Heavyweight title. So I can go up and down the list of different people that are in a Hall of Fame
No,
that didn't win the big one.
You make an amazing case for him, and I don't disagree that he doesn't belong. He does absolutely belong. The thing is, we're very humble guys. It just, like I said, it's not about personal accolades. We appreciate them when they come, obviously, but at the end of the day, anything that is going to reflect positively more for our kids is how we're going to look at it.
No, I understand that, and I would certainly hope that Coach Facina, when he comes back to Sportswire, because he always does the annual yearly visit, it's almost like the annual checkup to the doctor.
Well, we got to get you out to preseason this year.
Well,
so it'll be
no, it's important. I know
biannual.
preseason's definitely on the agenda this year. Unfortunately, like I said, this year I was very badly sick, and then again in the month of October I was like, oh my God, it was like I don't get sick. I actually went for to believe it or not, real quick before we get to a few final thoughts. I actually during COVID, I never got COVID. I never even got sick. There was a period for over 2 years I didn't get sick, and then all of a sudden this year I get a stomach virus, and then in the month of October I thought I was going to drop dead on the air. I was like, that's how bad I was sick. So, I mean, I definitely plan to be out there in the summer. I'm looking to be, very, very, very excited to be out there in Dix Hills and be out there with the rest of the team. So you obviously talked about a number of different things, but in terms of overall, before we get to closing thoughts, what do you want to say to your players as your kind of final words on putting a bow into the season? What do you want to say to them as kind of your final words? And that we spoke a lot about the season that was.
So obviously the season didn't go as we had hoped, but I could not be prouder of my girls, how they grew as people, as players, as students. I'm blessed and honored to be their coach. Coach Gabby and I are working hard in the off season to make it even better. So we can honor what they did, this season in their hard work to make it even better moving forward. You only get a certain amount of time on it as a college athlete and even on this earth. And you want to maximize it to the best of your ability. They say the worst thing in life is having regrets. And, we want to do everything we can to minimize that and just keep building amazing experiences. I mean, I'm still friends with people I played with in college. I know, obviously, Coach Facina, his whole staff.
Oh, well, we know that. I mean, listen, it's almost feel like it's like Malloy South almost.
Yeah, so we just want to build that, even further. But I could not ask for a better group of girls for my first season as a college coach. And I did promise you, I actually beat what I said to you. I said, if I don't win by my 5th game, it's a problem because it took me 5 years. We actually won in my 4th game. So there we go.
No, we did. No. Listen, I think there was a lot of things to be proud of. I know we speak, semi-regularly. We were talking during the season. I was obviously kind of, we were obviously seeing would you come on the show, would you not obviously, Jason, again, is very superstitious. Jason's kind of his philosophy every year is does not want to talk before the season. I've even had him on the show. I think he called when I do a Friday show where we talk regular sports, and he called up one time, and this was right before they went to training camp. I think when the 21s, it was 21 actually, and even then he didn't even want to talk about the team. He was like, it was like, talk to me. He called in, but it was like he didn't even want to talk about the team. It was like that's kind of like how very superstitious. So I understand that. So obviously, I think you did a lot of great things. It was a joy to kind of watch the team from afar. I think that there's a lot of things that we're going to look back on and say, what if? But I also think there's a lot of things that were really positive about the season. We saw, I think Anna Hauser develop. We saw Melissa Dupont come out of nowhere. Wildren Hernandez, Janie Martinez. Chelsea still had a good year. Jordan Tobin is Jordan Tobin. But I think you also kind of learned a little bit. You got your feet wet. You have to get your feet wet. So obviously, I know you've done a lot in high school, but I think now going into year 2, it's going to be a lot easier. And listen, Rome wasn't built in a day. I continue to say it. It takes time. And listen, Corey's the same way. Look at Corey's doing now with the women's basketball team. Durzel, he didn't get the job right away, and they had success. They're certainly, having some moments this year. They've won some big games, and it's peaks and valleys. And I think that's why we're really excited about the program. And let me ask you then this last question before I get to closing thoughts here. And obviously, we're excited for the future, and congratulations on winning Coach of the Year. You spoke about that also. You spoke about Gabby, but is there any final words that you want to say to anybody that's supported the team over the years, or anybody that's in faculty or in the athletics department, or anybody else that's hearing this for the first time and is hearing about Five Towns College and especially the women's soccer team? Is there any final words that you have for all those different groups?
Yeah, I want to thank, Matt and President Cohen for their
Yes,
support.
love Dr. Cohen. Dr. Cohen's been a big
Mike
supporter.
Mike Cavalli, who's the
Yes.
head of Res Life, of student activities. Sorry,
Student activities, yeah.
I think I got his title right now. He's been an amazing supporter of both programs. Obviously, the HEOP program and
Yes.
all they do for us. Christine in financial aid,
Yes.
Taylor in admissions. I could go on and on about
No, but those people are
amazing
important.
people.
Admissions and financial aid, those people
Yeah,
help
they don't
make
get
possible.
shouted out. I mean, and I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but the librarian, John, it was a colleague of mine in Roosevelt, and we've been friends for probably 15 years or so.
Oh my gosh.
And now to see him over there helping the students, with study halls and things like that is just an integral part of making sure we have everything we need on the academic level, in order to be successful. It was funny that you were talking about Coach, because we were approached about doing a show through the school, the coaches show or something like that. And he's like, so he's very,
Yeah,
private about that
I
stuff.
don't even think, I'm thinking about it with the radio station with WFTU. I don't even think that he's done an interview during the season. I know that
I don't think so.
I know they interviewed him before I first interviewed him when Matt reached out almost 4 years ago now, and I think he might have did one interview on WFTU before. I don't know if it was 21 or last year, but he's like, don't talk to him. Coach Gordieso, he'll come on every week. I mean, Coach Gordieso, if he's allowed to, he'll come on the show. It's just that he's at Malloy now, and listen, Marquardt and them, I don't want to say it on the air, but they don't really want interviews done. But when he was at St. Joe's, Gordieso was the man. He would come on with me, and we would talk, for hours. And when he was at CCNY, they were great with it. So some coaches, they really want to come on the Sportswire and talk about stuff. But Coach Facina, I understand. I get it. It's like we're here. It's a job to do. It's very, very the Yankees and we want to win this championship, and that's kind of my priorities, and that's it. So I totally get that. So obviously, I understand. Coach's show. I would love to see it on Sportswire, but then again, I'm gonna have to go to camp in August, and hopefully it's not 100 degrees when I go down there, and we get it up. I'll have my tripod set up. I'll have my phone, my mini mic, and maybe we'll get a chance to speak to these players up close, and that'll be kind of a cool thing. And it was one of my regrets, honestly, of this year was I didn't get a chance to go out there and meet you guys because, unfortunately, again, I was very sick, and it was really, I couldn't, jeopardize my health, but also the players' health, most importantly. But next year, I definitely think in the summer that'll be a bucket list. But I know my bucket list next year, most importantly, will just be seeing all things related to the Five Town Sound women's soccer team and our head coach, the 2023 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Coach of the Year. That is Mr. Jeff Littwin. We can follow the women's soccer team at FTC Women's Soccer, the men's soccer team, FTC Men's Soccer, 5towns_sound on Instagram as well. And Coach, I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? It's always been an honor and a pleasure. I'm looking forward to having you on. Maybe one day after next season, when you win a championship, maybe we'll say, do you want to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? But obviously, until then, Coach Facina, you're up on deck, and I'm sure Coach Gordieso is going to actually have a one-up on Facina when he gets inducted after their season at Malloy. But I turn it over to you, my friend, and the pleasure is always all ours here on Sportswire. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? The floor is yours.
I just want to thank you for having me on and just being so supportive of our program.
Yes.
I think part of the reason we don't want to come on every week is we don't want people to think we're superhero movies and get tired of us.
Well, we do a lot of wrestling on Sportswire. All the guys and gals on wrestling are like, when can I come back on? I mean, I have a list. It's almost like it's out the door. That's why, I really made it a special moment here to have you on because,
like I said, I completely appreciate it. I hope the girls understand, how much Coach Gabby and I really do care about them, and Coach Facina, obviously, even though he's not the head coach of the women anymore, some of these girls are his girls as well.
Absolutely, yes, sure.
The whole men's staff has just been super supportive of our program as well. The boys themselves, helping us practice and things like that.
Well, obviously, Abby and Juan.
Because the season didn't quite go how we had hoped. A couple of people asked me if I had any regrets, because obviously I had a pretty cushy gig at the high school level. And I said, how can I regret meeting some of the greatest people in my life right now, and want better for me, want better for my kids. It's just, and it provides that opportunity for my current Roosevelt students that they'll always have a place to come and play, both on the men's and the women's side, and not just for soccer, but for basketball as well.
Sure.
So it's just been a great ride. It was a huge learning experience, and, on to bigger and better in 24.
Absolutely. No question about it. I think the best is yet to come in 2024. And I definitely think that we saw the foundations of it. We were certainly building those seeds in 2023. And I'm very excited, again, as always, about the Five-Town Sound, the entire athletics program, and everything else that's done here. Obviously, big shout outs to Matt Gershio and Dr. Cohen. Matt Gershio have been one of my biggest champions almost throughout my entire 5-year career on Sportswire Radio. It's really, again, you talked about my support of the program, but really it's the athletics program that has always believed in my platform. A lot of people would say, don't go on a podcast, don't speak to this guy. But the fact is that this program has always believed in me and has believed in my platform as a place that their athletes, and obviously you guys, can come on here and speak freely, express your opinions. And I obviously really believe in the program and follow it. And I think that it's a two-way street. And that's why I will always continue to cover Five Towns in the athletics program. And that's why I always support everything what you guys do. And I want everybody to join me in doing that again one more time on Instagram at FTC Women's Soccer, FTC Men's Soccer, 5 Towns _sound. Also support WFTU. Sydney Mountain's on there. She does her shows, I think, Thursday afternoon still. So make sure you support her and so many other people here. And again, a rising tide will always lift all boats. And I have no doubt that Jeff Littwin, the 2023 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Women's Coach of the Year for the women's soccer team at the Five Town Sound program, will definitely do that and some. Happy New Year, Coach. I'm looking forward to speaking with you in 2024. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you do as a teacher, a mentor, a father, and most importantly, a coach to our beloved women's soccer team. And I can't wait to watch the season in 2024. We're obviously looking forward to that futsal tournament one more time. FTC for more details on that futsal tournament. So get in touch with Coach Vicina and Coach Littman on that. And Coach, thank you as always. Can't wait to do this again in 2024. And thank you as always, and Happy New Year.
Same.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the head coach of the Five Town Sound women's soccer team, the 2023 Hudson Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Conference Coach of the Year. That is Jeff Littwin. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. If you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, I'll be back tomorrow afternoon at some point, so stay tuned for more details, as I'll have on Color Championship Wrestling owner James Barris. They're getting ready for their final show of the year. We'll talk about that here and some. So stay tuned for more details on that. But until then, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.